Hi everybody, this is Rhys Barber from Audiology Associates. Thanks very much for watching our earwax removal video today. Now this patient was chock-a-block. You can see in here we're very blocked up ear canal. So a lovely patient came through and really only been having difficulty on one side, so which is this particular side you can see here. Hadn't been able to hear very well for the last 7 weeks. Voice echoing round in their head, not be able to hear particularly well. You can see we've got this very kind of soft material here at the entrance. Their own admission, the patient had thrown every single drop under the sun in this ear canal just to try and relieve this blockage. Unfortunately, what's happened is this particular blockage is a mixture of skin and wax. So a lot of the drops really didn't work particularly well. And when the wax gets this deep and it's this full, then a drop isn't going to make a blind bit of difference. The migration processes inside the ear canal are just defunct at this point. Everything now is backing up behind this plug. The reason, just for you to know, why somebody would sort of say they get this kind of voice echoing round in their head when they get wax problems. If you take your finger and close off your ear canal and then talk, what you'll hear is your own voice gets really burry and echoey inside your head. Now that's the equivalent of having a wax plug in there. And the reason it sounds so very different, or the reason you sound very different when you listen to yourself back on a tape, is because you hear your voice by two mechanisms. Your vibration from your voice box into your head and your voice coming out and going into your ears. And you normally hear both those things at the same time. When this gets blocked up, you're hearing a lot more of this than you are that, and your voice sounds very different, which is why you sound very different when you listen to yourself back on, I was going to say a tape, God, that's old school, where you listen to yourself back on one of these modern technology devices like mobile phones. You sound very different to how you thought you did. It's because you're only hearing one of those voices and not both together. There you go. Bit of information for you guys. So you can see what I'm doing here now. I'm breaking down all of this skin debris here. And the reason I'm doing that is we've got this central core, this nugget of wax in here, surrounded by these layers upon layers of dead skin. The problem is if we just try and pull the nugget, then the skin is going to hold everything in place. But you can see by loosening the skin first and taking these big bits of skin away, we're actually able then to get this piece of central wax moving a little bit better. So we managed to get this long strip of skin that's been kind of one of the side pieces of this plug out. There we go. Now every piece we remove obviously reduces the amount of bits that are adhering to the canal wall, which means it's a little bit easier to get this out. So we're going to hold on to this one side. Let's give this a little bit of a wiggle. There we go. You can see it's, but now look at the plug just behind the suction tube drawing forwards then. So that piece was obviously quite an integral part of that plug. It's a bit like, what's the best way to describe it? It's a bit like kind of Jenga, I suppose. You're kind of taking bits away just to try and loosen. Well, I suppose Jenga would be the opposite really, wouldn't it? Or Kaplunk. You're kind of pulling bits out. You're trying to kind of loosen it all up there to try and free up the next piece to be able to bring this down. So we're just loosening, unpicking. There we go. It's a bit like what's a better description? Jenga and Kaplunk are not the best. It's a bit like undoing a ball of wool or a knot. You're looking to try and take and tease it apart to try and loosen up enough to get these pieces coming out. Now we're down to this nugget here. You can see that's a bit of wax there. And we're going to draw this for a lot of skin hanging onto the back end of it though. Let's pull that out. Look how that just, as soon as you took it out the ear canal, just went whoomp and unfolded straight away there. So out this comes. There we go, a little bit of skin that was hanging onto the back. So this was what was anchoring it in place. You can see this long strip of skin. I think this is a good bit that comes away now. Yeah, look at this coming away. So we're holding onto it and drawing, there you go. Look at that coming out. And you can see how it was connected then to that piece that was just behind it, drawing that down the canal towards the entrance as well. There we go, and we've got this one, so last piece there. Let's try and draw this down. There we go. Patient was so relieved. As soon as we got that big plug moving, that kind of blocked up sensation we were talking about earlier disappeared straight away. Patient could hear so much better. Now you can see we've got a lot of dead skin debris in here. The reason there's so much in this particular patient's ear canal, I think this is more to do, rather than the patient suffering with a lot of dry skin, but look how that peels. Wow, look at that peeling away there, guys. I think it's more to do with the amount of drops the patient's put in. They've been putting peroxide drops in, they've been putting bicarbonate drops in, olive oil drops, everything that's gone in here. So it's going to really affect that skin. But you can see this is hanging on for dear life. So let's bring our old friend, the crocodile forceps, into play here. Let's get a good grip on this section. Let's see if the whole thing comes out. I'm just going to, I can't see underneath it, can I? So we're just pulling, there we go. Look how that's coming away from the canal wall. Look at that whole section dropping forwards there. Look at that coming away. Long strip. Let's see how much of that is removed now, how much we've got left in there. So it's taken that whole kind of right hand side right the way up and around the attic there. Let's lift this bottom section. Now this is tough as old boots, this bottom section. You can see that coming away. There we go. Now is that going to come away as one piece? It's sort of whole. You can see how it drifts into the canal further back there. There we go. It's starting to move. I think it broke away. Yes, it did. So we just broke the front end off, but it has lifted a lot more of this dead skin. Let's bring the old crocodile forceps back in here. Let's get a good grip and start to draw this forwards. Out that comes. There we are. We can see how that's come away from the base of the canal. We'll go back in and have a little look at the canal. There we go. You can see how it kind of come away there. We just need to tidy this up a little bit. So we've got lots of loose little bits of skin. Let's pop the fine end on here. This is much better for getting these kind of thinner, smaller, looser bits of skin out. So we're just going to draw that down. There we are. You can see we're just slowly tidying this up. There we are. And we're going to creep over the top, I think, for this one. Or we're going to do side to side. No, we're going to go over the top. So what we're going to do with this case, the reason I've dropped over the top, if you've got two layers of skin, top one's a little bit loose, you grab this and you pull it, what's going to happen? It's going to peel all the way down, which when it gets to this point, which is much deeper in the canal, that's going to be really sensitive for the patient there. So what we're opting to do instead is drop the suction tube over the top and draw backwards. What that's going to do is clip that off, as you can see here, and suck it into the machine. So there we go. That's what it looked like before. Patient very blocked up, not a hint of an eardrum there. This is what it looks like after. So patient hearing so much better. Eardrum looks good. Now the patient didn't really feel they had any problems with this particular ear canal. So this is the patient's other ear canal here, and you can see it's almost as blocked as the other side, but it looks dry to me. It looks kind of crispy, and that's because the patient hasn't used any softening drops on this side because they really didn't feel they had too much of an issue. But I don't think we're going to get a good grip. It's too tight of an angle on the end of the wax there. So we're not going to get a good suction grip. So let's start breaking this down using the Jobson horn here. So let's loosen that front side. So we've taken that front section. Now sometimes you're lucky, and because you've got this very kind of wedge shape to the front of it, when you cleave that off, you end up with a flatter surface to get a suction grip on. That's not really the case in this one. It's lots of really dry bits all clumped together. So we're just going to try and carry on using the Jobson horn just for a little bit. There we go. You can see how all those pieces are kind of very loosely bound to one another. And we're going to take a look behind that, and we're still going in here. So considering this patient didn't have any issues with this particular ear canal, you can see it's actually, I would say, fuller, or have more wax in it rather than fuller, than the other ear canal was. So it's, but this one, because it's those looser sections, don't forget sound can get through gaps. So if you've got little tiny gaps running all the way down the ear canal, the sound can find its way through. Because imagine the sound, don't forget, sound is a wave, but don't imagine it like a wave in the ocean. Imagine it like an explosion, right? That's what I want you to imagine sound like. So you get this big burst of sound which pushes all the air molecules into one another, and that passes on to the next and the next and the next. So if you've ever got like, if you see ripples in a pond, that's why they always show you. You throw a pebble in a pond, you get these ripples that will form outwards. That's what I want you to imagine sound like, but in 3 dimensions. So imagine it like a sphere, a little bit in the middle and boom, like that, all right? And then those sort of compressions and rarefactions, so there's this pushing into the air molecules and pulling back, it means that they can actually get through all these little gaps and stimulate the eardrum itself. Whereas when you're completely blocked, when you've got this kind of finger stuck in your ear sensation, is because there's no gaps there at all. So the sound just can't get through. It gets dampened by the actual plug itself, which is why people have lots of difficulty. There we go. Sorry, I digressed massively on that point then. I'm so sorry, guys. But you can see now we've got this massive plug deeper in. Now this is the kind of core. This is the hard bit of this wax. It's really deep inside here, and it's got lots of dry skin layers around the outside edge, which are hanging onto the canal wall. So they can imagine this plug is holding on like this on the way down. It doesn't want to come out because that skin is really clamped onto the side. So we're going to have to use something with a little bit more pressure behind it, which in this case is the Jobson horn, just to try and break a little bit more of that central plug away, which you can see has come away nicely there. And if we take a look, you can see a little bit of a softer material, and this skin husk, if you like, is left behind. So let's carry on here. I think we're going to switch back to the suction now. Now we've taken that central core away, it means that we've got the option to lift this husk off the canal wall, lift it off, and that's the only way we're going to get this out is by detaching it physically from the canal wall, and that's what we're doing here. Oh, it's really, you can see, even though we've taken that central section away, you can see at the bottom of the screen there, as you're lifting this up, how it's peeling down the canal with every lift. Oh, it looks like it's holding on for grim death in there. It's moving forward, but very, very slowly. Can we get the forceps on this now, or can we get the Jobson horn behind it? Can't quite remember which one we use. I think it's the forceps. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to hold on to this outside edge and we're going to draw this section down. If we're lucky, it's going to draw that bottom whole skin section out, and that's going to help us to get this plug away. So there we go, out. Look at that coming away. So that was that kind of, oh, it's still going. That was that sort of bottom layer of that husk of skin. Now we can see we got a lot more space in here, a lot more room to maneuver. So now we'll pull down from the top. Let's drag it off the attic here, and we're going to detach that skin. You can see the layers. Look at that layer to the right hand side that's come away there. That's the kind of layer we're talking about in this husk, this very thin surface layer of dry skin in this particular patient's ear canal. So you can see the one that's come up from the bottom left as well. Now the difficulty when you have suction and you have these kind of flappy bits of skin that have come up is they're going to want to get into the suction tube before the plug does. So as you get closer, they're instinctively going to flick up very quickly into the suction tube. So sometimes you're lucky, and if you can get a bunch of that dry skin, that flap of skin, and a bunch of the plug as well, you can draw the whole thing down at the same time, which is what we've done here. And then we can nip over the top with the Jobson horn. There we are. So the front, you can see the bit that's just on the screen now, that was that flap of dry skin that we could see that kept lifting up. And there's the plug behind it. Long, long old plug there. So let's have a look behind that as well. There we are. We're still going. We've got rid of some, but we've still got a lot more to get rid of. So we're going to go back in now, and we're going to move this wax to the opposing canal wall. That's going to detach it. Now we should get a nice, easy bit to come away now. There we go. Is there a bit left in there? It looks a bit too short. Yeah, I thought it was. So you can see this long bit, then this last end that was right down against the eardrum. Look at the color difference. Look at this light material here. A lot of dry skin in there. Sometimes it's slightly newer wax as well, so it's lighter. But look at that compared to the color of the pieces against the eardrum. That piece is old. That's been in there a long old time. Now, I know you're going to ask me how old. Always a difficult thing to put an exact pinpoint on, but I would say based on the patient's history when they had their ears cleaned out last, which was about 10 years ago, I think this is probably a good sort of 3-4 years, I would say, looking at this. Sometimes like if it's really old, sort of 10-year-old wax, it would be solid. It would be absolutely, it'd be like a little pebble coming out of there. But you can see I was right up against the eardrum, that piece as well. So we're just going to draw that down. And we're going to get to the next section. There we go. Let's draw that piece down. There we go. We'll give the lens a little bit of a clean as well in a minute, just because there's a little bit of, it's hard to tell with this wax or a little bit of oil that's gone on that camera lens. There we are. And there's the eardrum there looking so much better. There's one tiny little flake of skin. Let's just get rid of that. There we go. Now we'll have a look at this eardrum. So this is what it looked like before we started. And this is what it looks like now. So you can see a massive difference. Oh my goodness, this patient was so relieved. But look at that. No, I haven't spread this end to end because I didn't have a ruler long enough, so I've bunched it. So we've got 6.5 centimeters, 2.5 inches. If you put that end to end, I think we were way past the 10 centimeter mark on that one, but a lot came out of both those ears. You can see the color differences there, lighter skin material, darker wax material. Oh, I need a well-deserved cup of tea now, guys. I don't know about you. So as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video as much as I did voicing it over. Take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care. Oh, I didn't give you the answer. I did a whole video. I didn't give you the. I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so glad I remembered to do that. The answer to what came out the ear last time, it was the dome from a hearing aid. Now, a dome's a little rubber tip that you put on the end of a hearing aid, which is why it was so firmly held in there. I meant it at the beginning. I'm so sorry, guys. Yes, so that was the answer. So well done, anyone who got that one right. So as always, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of your ears, and take care of one another. And I'll see you again real soon. Bye, everyone.